Hello, everyone. It's 3 o'clock, and I would like to begin the workshop in the matter of a commission rulemaking to promulgate a new rule entitled 17, Chapter 9, Parts 571 of the New Mexico Administrative Code, Renewable Energy for Rural Electric Cooperatives, case number 22-00140 UT. We have 10 participants, and this is being broadcast on YouTube live. Is that correct, Hans?
That is correct. We are currently live streaming.
Thank you. I would like to begin by stating that on June 8th, the commission issued an initial order opening this rulemaking docket. It came upon the filing by the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission Utility Division staff on June 1st, 2022, of a petition requesting the commission to open a docket for the purpose of initiating a rulemaking proceeding and eventually issue a notice of proposed rulemaking. There's a little bit of history to this case, which is that on October 9th, 2019, in case number 19-00296, the commission issued an order commencing rulemaking and setting an initial workshop to implement the 2019 amendments to the Renewable Energy Act and the Rural Electric Cooperative Act. In December of 2019, Utility Division staff filed a request to bifurcate the docket. Staff requested that the commission consider opening a separate rulemaking docket to address renewable energy requirements for rural electric cooperatives, separate from the rule which was addressing renewable energy standards for investor-owned utilities in case 19-00296. Subsequently, on August 5th, 2020, the commission issued an order approving the bifurcation of the rural electric cooperative renewable energy rulemaking from the investor-owned utility rural renewable energy act rulemaking. And in support of the petition that staff filed on June 1st, hold on, okay, I'm trying to get my screen in order. Staff stated that Senate Bill 489 amended a specific section of the Rural Electric Cooperative Act to increase renewable energy portfolio standard requirements for rural electric cooperatives. It had an effective date of June 14th, 2019. And staff's petition states that some of the language in its Exhibit A was language moved over from the former Rule 572, which was the Renewable Energy Act rule, and that staff stated that they added new sections. And in conclusion, staff found that the commission found that staff's petition was well taken and complied with the August 5th, 2020 order in case number 19-00296 to have a separate rulemaking regarding the renewable energy portfolio standards for rural electric cooperatives. And at this point, I would like to hand it over to someone from staff to explain Exhibit A. And maybe we could put it on the screen, do a screen share and go through it. If Hans, do you want me to send it to you?
Yeah, that's fine. Or if whoever is going to be talking about it, I can enable their screen sharing as well.
Hold on, I'm having to respond to an email from Chuck Garcia, asking if it's on YouTube. So hold on. But whoever can, do you need me to send you a copy of the rule?
Well, this is Gloria. Good afternoon, everybody. I can share my screen. I have the exhibit in I guess in the order. We can show the order if you'd like, and I can go over the draft rule if you'd like.
Thank you.
Okay, Gloria, I just made you co-host, so you should have screen sharing abilities now.
Okay, thank you. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to the exhibit here. All right, so 17.9.571, we in working with staff, we decided to just draft a whole new rule to address the renewable energy requirements for rural electric cooperatives. So we drafted in all of the sections that are usually in a rule, 1 through 6. The objective is, again, to fulfill the statutory requirements in section 62, 1534 and 1537 to bring significant economic development and environmental benefits to New Mexico. Then the next section is, as usual, is just the definitions. When we drafted the rule, we paid attention to what had already been in the prior rule. So that would have been 17.9.572 in its version prior to the amendment in 2021. So the sections of that rule that were relevant to rural electric distribution cooperatives were 17.9.572 1 through 6, and then specifically 17.9.572.17, 21, 22, and 23. So we took the sections that were relevant from the old rule and put them into the new rule. Liberal construction, this section 8 right here, seems to be in many of the PRC rules. So we went ahead and put that in there. And also 17.9.571.9, we added that in. Again, it seems to be a common occurrence in PRC rules. The portfolio standard 17.9.571.10, we drafted the new requirements that were in SB 489 and that are now codified in the renewable, or I'm sorry, the Rural Electric Cooperative Act in section 62, section 62, I think we tried to explain all of this in the petition, so hopefully it was a good explanation. But this is, the portfolio standards are in 62-1534. And we added those into this section under subsection B, specifically the new targets that were in SB 489. And then again, just used a lot of the same language that was in the old rule. The biggest changes from the old rule to the new rule were updating the statutory references. Also, under section, I believe it's the portfolio report, this 17.9.571.14, these requirements are newer to, in the draft rule, to distribution cooperatives. This was added in so that staff would have an adequate amount of information in the reports so to determine compliance. Also, this information was requested in the old rule from the IOUs. So now this is the same information that the division is requesting from the distribution cooperatives. All of the rest of the rule, again, just kind of parallels what was in the old rule. We described the sections in the petition to open the rulemaking, and kind of show you in the petition where the rules parallel the old rule. I think that's pretty much a description of what's changed from the old rule now in this new proposed rule. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I was wondering if staff had looked at the comments that were filed in the docket.
Yes.
In particular, from the New Mexico Rural Electric Cooperative Association.
Yes.
And do you have anything? They seem to be suggesting changing. Well, if you look at their red line,
Okay.
and they they changed the definition of renewable portfolio standard. They struck out the word public utility and inserted the word distribution cooperative. What do you think of that?
Well, we did look at the you're looking at comment number 1 from the Rural Electric Cooperative Association.
Yeah.
Okay, so I believe that the IRPs are not discussed within the rule, so it's an acceptable. It's okay to. We don't disagree with removing IRP from the definition section.
Okay. And then I'm looking at number R4, which is renewable portfolio standard. They're deleting the word public utility and inserting the word distribution cooperative.
We tried to track the amendment or the draft rule to the language that was used in the statutes. So I think it may be acceptable to be consistent to say distribution cooperative. That's not a change that we would object to. Might have been a drafting error.
And they did this, a similar thing in Z under zero carbon resource standard.
Well, we need to be careful with the definitions. The definitions that we used in the draft rule are word for word the definitions that are in the statutes. So I guess we'd need to double check to make sure that if a specific definition is being amended and that has to align with the definition in the statute. We can't change the definition from the statutory definition.
Yeah, and perhaps they can explain the reason why they want these changes. They also in 571.9 struck out public utilities and inserted distribution cooperatives. And also in 171.10B, they struck out B3C2. They struck out rural electric and inserted distribution cooperative.
Okay. Let me see if we can.
And they did that similarly in C, 10C.
Okay, so it looks like the first instance where they strike the IRP, that is an acceptable deletion. So deleting subsection I out of 17.9.571.7. But if you go to R, subsection R, and you look at 62-15-37 in the Rural Electric Cooperative Act, subsection B defines renewable energy. And it defines renewable energy as electric energy generated by use of renewable energy resources and delivered to a rural electric cooperative. So you can't, I mean, even though it's pretty much the same thing, I think we're going to have to keep the definition of R because it is word for word the same definition that's in the statute.
You're saying of renewable portfolio standard. Number 4, R4.
R4?
Yeah, if you actually, maybe we should put their comment up on the screen, and
Okay.
that would be helpful.
Okay, let me see if I can grab that really quick.
And I'm not sure who's here from, let's see who's here from the rural electric cooperatives. It appears to be Kevin Grunwald and Dan Najar. Would you like to explain the reason for your proposed changes?
Certainly, I can handle that, or Dan can jump in here. This is Kevin Gronwald.
Yeah, why don't we do that after Gloria puts it up on the screen?
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble finding the.
It's in the if you look in eDocket, it's under the comments section. So it's 900. It says comments/protests.
Okay.
It's not under the pleadings.
Right.
We only received comments from the New Mexico Rural Electric Cooperative Association and Kit Carson Electric.
Yeah. Judy?
Yes.
Hi, it's Dan Najar. I mean,
Hi.
while she's doing that, I don't want to make this overly complicated. I think the goal we had in mind was just to try to derive some consistency in the rule. We had noticed you used the term distribution cooperative, and the term public utility in statute is much broader than just rural electric cooperatives. So I think our entire objective was just to try to be consistent throughout. I don't think it was intended to do anything substantive, but we didn't want to create the confusion that this rule applies to anybody other than the distribution cooperatives. And Kevin, correct me if I've misstated any of that.
No, that's accurate, Dan. If you go to the definitions, definition D, distribution cooperative means a utility with distribution facilities that purchase wholesale power and deliver it to the consumer in New Mexico and organized as a rural electric cooperative under the Rural Electric Cooperative Act.
Right.
Rural electric
So-
cooperative is in there, but we changed that throughout the rule to be consistent with the definition D.
I see.
Right, and I understand that trying to make it consistent. The only issue I might have is where a definition is in the statute, we can't change the wording of the definition in the rule. So we couldn't.
Although this rule only, let's say the applicability,
Right, it's very clear that this draft rule only applies to distribution cooperatives.
yeah. And you, and so as I hear what you're saying, Dan and Kevin, you want to make that clear, that anytime the word utility or public utility is used, that it should be the distribution cooperative as defined in D, which is in accordance with the act. Is that your position?
Yes, Kevin, I'll let you speak, Kevin, but yes, that's, I think, our position.
Okay,
Yeah, that was exactly why we did it.
okay,
Yep, and that's fine with us. I mean, the staff we didn't object to that at all throughout the rule, unless it changes the definition that's in a statute.
well, but the funny thing is, you're kind of mixing and matching statutes. You're using the renewable portfolio standard definition, but that's from another statute other than the rural electric cooperatives. You see, so I think what they're saying is you're gonna have to marry the two, so to speak, because and I don't want to speak for them, but that's what I hear them saying. Is that correct?
Well, I believe that if you look at renewable portfolio standard number 4, it's R4, I guess.
Yeah,
That is a definition that it's not in the statute. It's in the Renewable Energy Act, but it's not in the Rural Electric Cooperative Act. So I see what you're saying. So I don't know how that would be reconciled necessarily under the State Rules Act, but in order to make it specifically applicable to just distribution cooperatives, I guess the proposed definition in R4 would be acceptable.
I think that's what they're trying to do.
Okay.
With all of their changes.
That's correct, with all the definition changes and all what I would call non-substantive. Our goal was just to try to reach consistency and limit it to the distribution cooperatives as defined above, as you
Okay.
noted.
You're right. That's fine. That's fine.
So that probably takes care of a lot of the changes, except when we go to 14. There's quite a few strikeouts in 14.
Right.
Dan, do you want to explain those? Dan or Kevin? Anybody want to?
You want me to handle this, Dan?
Excuse me? I'm sorry. I have a fan on that's really loud, but if I don't, it's too hot.
So we went back to statute, and what we added in blue is, the language out of the statute. Some of these things, direct, like G, the Regis language, the Rex acquired, sold, retired, transferred, and expired. We struck that language because, the G&Ts, Tri-State and Western Farmers have the responsibility of meeting our portfolio requirement. So they will transfer to us the exact number we need every year. So there won't be necessarily, we won't acquire any, we won't sell any or retire any. What we'll retire is just ones that we need to meet our standards. So for 2025, and we need 40%, then the G&Ts will look at exactly what our loads were last year, and they'll transfer to us the number of credits necessary to meet that 40%. And then we'll in turn report that to the commission with the necessary paperwork.
Now, just Kevin, just for us to be completely accurate on this, and I know staff knows this, there is one distribution co-op who's not a member of our association who is not obtaining power from a G&T. So I don't know how you want to deal with that, Judy, but for all the other co-ops in the state, everything Kevin said is accurate.
So you're saying the actual retirements or sold, whatever, are done by the G&T? But don't they give you a document from Regis?
I don't handle those filings for the 15 members. I'm not exactly sure what the paperwork looks like. I see Tim Woolley's on.
Yeah.
Do you know Tim?
Hi, Judy. This is Tim Woolley with Tri-State. You know, Kevin, you asked me the hardest question of the day. I do all our legal work. I don't do the nuts and bolts of this, but I can sure get an answer to that and get back to you all. I don't know if I can do it during this meeting, but I can sure try. I don't know how yes, we have renewable energy resources all in New Mexico, and our members actually have quite a few of their own, and that is all added up, and RECs are retired, that they're retired. We don't really need to buy RECs at this time. So we have a system. We do use Regis, but I don't know the nuts and bolts of that. How the report gets done between us and the distribution cooperatives, but I can sure find out.
And if I may add, I think if you went and looked at like our last year's filings, I think that's exactly the same format that we were foreseeing. Because again, we got those, Tri-State gives us the necessary documentation to prove that we met the portfolio standard for like 2021. And everyone puts their, if they have their own individual local RECs, or if they have, let's say, think like Springer, they have their own 1 megawatt system. I'm sure that would factor into it. But the overall report I believe we just foresaw that would look the same as in the past. We're just going to have to get to higher standards.
Gloria, did staff look at these changes and what did staff think of them?
So we had a discussion about the proposed changes from the association, and the draft rule, it's subsections A through G in 17.9.57114 was designed to ask the cooperatives for enough information to verify compliance. It's the same information if you look at the current rule 572 for IOUs. It's similar information is requested in the reports. So, and it hadn't been requested from the distribution co-ops before this in 572 in the old rule. But there was a discussion with a former division director and then again with current staff that this information requested would be in alignment with the statute, and also that it allows a determination of compliance. So that was basically the discussion that we had. If anybody else from staff would like to add anything.
Let's see who else is here. Gabriella and Alicia. I guess I'll direct this question to both of you. I understand that this is what we require of the IOUs, but the rural electrics aren't actually the ones who are retiring and selling and acquiring the RECs. So how can we make this section informative, but at least more custom to the rural electrics situation?
This is Alicia Leyba Tercero speaking. And so as Gloria's understanding was correct, the same as mine. I mean, some of this language was included in there from the former division director, just as a way to try to get some more detailed information to verify compliance. And I do understand that the language being proposed by the Co-op Association is, the language that's in the statute. And I'm not necessarily opposed to that, but if there is more detailed information that could be provided than what we've seen in prior reports, I think that would be preferable. I don't, to the extent that there's information that the co-ops can't provide, then I understand that. But I think it would be helpful to try to get some additional information than what we've seen in the reports in the past.
Well, maybe I can make a suggestion. Yeah, I think that both comments make sense to me. One, that the rural electrics have a unique situation, and two, that the commission has a desire to get more information than they've gotten in the past. So maybe the Rural Electric Cooperative Association could draft some suggested language to replace the deleted portions. Is that something you would be willing to do?
Yeah, I think we can work on that. We'll get together with, I need a better understanding both from my managers on what they're reporting to the commission, and also from Western Farmers and Tri-State on what they're providing, to their members. And I would point out back on section 10C, 1 and 2. like with Tri-State, there's not 100% obligation. They can get a certain percentage from another source, whether they do their own little project and do a PPA. So I'm trying to clarify that the G&T is only responsible for the amount that they have contracted to the member co-op. Because on the Western Farmer system, it is 100%. Everything must flow through Western Farmers according to their wholesale power contract. But with Tri-State, there's a little more flexibility. And I just wanted to be clear that they're not responsible for 100% if their wholesale contract doesn't require 100% obligation.
I think I understand. So there might be some qualifying language regarding, the percent, depending on whether or not you purchase 100% or not from the G&T.
That's correct.
Although I do, Gloria, do you think it would be helpful to get some proposed language from the association?
I suppose it could be useful. I guess it would be helpful to, I don't know what could be in the alternative to what's already been proposed. So I do understand that the rule applies to the distribution cooperatives, but yeah, I guess it would be useful to get a better understanding of what the G&Ts believe information they could provide, and also what information is already being provided to meet these goals. That we just have to make sure that the goals are met. Also, the commission's required to report back to the legislature periodically on this. So we need to have enough information so that the folks that are determining compliance can make the compliance determination, if that makes sense. I don't know if maybe Gabrielle or Alicia or Milo have any other suggestions, since they're more familiar with what the reports look like. To me, the statutory language is not enough. It needs to be fleshed out in more detail so that there's no question about what's going to be required for reporting.
Yes, and this is Alicia Leba-Tercero, and I absolutely agree with that. I think, we understand that there may be information that the co-ops can't provide, but I think we could probably get some, a bit more detailed information in these reports that can help us to verify compliance.
Alicia, what kind of information are you getting now? And the corollary to that is, what kind of information are you not getting now?
Well, I'm gonna defer to Milo as somebody that's looked at these reports before. I don't know if you have any suggestions for that. I know that they're pretty minimal, what we've seen, and it comes out of that statutory language, and so there's no detail in there on the information that's provided.
Yeah, I don't know if Milo can chime in.
Yeah, I'm here. Quite frankly, I think it behooves just Western Farmers and Tri-State and the association and staff and Chuck. We could come up with something that goes in there. I mean, I don't think we could come up with it now, but
I'm could you speak up? I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of difficulty hearing you, and I want to make sure that everybody on YouTube can also hear you.
Okay, so I would suggest that the parties, and namely Tri-State Western Farmers, the association, Kit Carson and staff, get together and come up with something that's reasonable. Again, the language that was suggested that mimics the investor-owned utilities is a bit excessive, and that was suggested by the former division director. But I think we can come up with something that's reasonable. And
Yeah, that would be great.
so if if you can, give us some time to work out something, I think we could come up with something.
So
Is
Judy,
that
this
Yeah,
is Dan.
Dan.
Yeah,
I was
we
going to
can-
ask you. Yeah.
Well, I think we could certainly work with them. I mean, as Kevin mentioned, he has a little bit of checking to do with our membership to find out what they're doing now. Tim's already agreed to check on behalf of Tri-State. I don't see anybody on for Western Farmers. And I believe Chuck Garcia is listening, but not on. So we can try to coordinate a little now going through Alicia and Gloria and Milo. I don't know if you want us to do this in the context of a second workshop or just informally. I guess that would be my question is, does this need to occur with another workshop, or can we just circulate emails?
Well, that's a good question. I would ask the commissioners, perhaps if they would issue an order, asking for further comments after meeting, after the participants meet together. And that might be, and then you could work on your own and maybe jointly submit something. Would that work?
Kevin, do you have any problem with that?
No, I think we could come up with something.
Yeah, that would be good. Just maybe a single signature order from a commissioner asking the parties to collaborate and submit a joint proposal about number 14.
Kevin, do we need to include section 10 as well? Well,
From our standpoint, that clarifies our language. Certainly not going to speak for Kit Carson.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not suggesting that. But yeah, so I think that would be probably the best way to proceed. Christopher Hall, are you present? What do you think about that? You're attending on behalf of Commissioner Maestas, is that correct?
That's correct, Judy, and yes, I'm here, and I would say that sounds like a eminently reasonable solution to the issue. I will note that it seems like Kit Carson's comments seem to focus on section 10, so it might be worthwhile to go ahead and presumptively include that. And I can say with some degree of confidence that I think Commissioner Maestas would be happy to take that single signature order and sign it and get it out as quickly as possible, so we can move.
Well, that would be good.
And Judy, the only other request I would make to Christopher, if Commissioner Maestas is the one that's going to do it, is I think not that anybody's going to delay, but it is summer and it's hard to coordinate things. So I would hope we get a little bit of time to do this. We felt a little rushed on this in the first case because we were trying to coordinate with 15 members to get comments back from them. And it's hard for us because our managers with fires and everything else going on have been very busy.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, and we have so many rulemakers. We're all stretched real thin. I totally understand.
I mean, what have we used as a standard, and what would you perhaps consider reasonable as a time frame to still allow for completion of the rule, but to also give you time to
Well, that's a
convene with all your members.
Yeah, that's a fair question, Christopher. Let me, Kevin, and actually Tim as well, how much time do we realistically need to be able to get comments back? And then obviously we're not speaking for Kit Carson.
Well, from Tri-State's perspective, I think we can turn this around pretty quick. You'd be working with Matt Fitzgibbon in our shop, and I'd support him. We won't be the holdup. I don't think we can get this done in a matter of weeks. I need to get my hands around exactly what the RPS requirement is. I mean, obviously it's how many recs are retired and applied to the RPS, but I need to get my hands around all this cost information that's being requested, and how we work with that. So that's beyond just the number of recs. And then that shouldn't take long to figure that out. And then we'll get back to you on and the membership on, what we can provide, maybe what roadblocks are. I don't even know yet. I'm not trying to say there's any roadblocks, but give us a couple of weeks to look at it and I can give you a full report.
Well, that would be really good. And I'm sorry I have to interrupt, but Chuck Garcia just sent me an email saying he doesn't have a way to speak on YouTube, but Kit Carson would be happy to participate. So it sounds like he's requesting a Zoom link. Hans, would you provide that to Chuck Garcia now?
The Zoom link? Sure.
Yeah, he just sent me an email.
Can you forward me the email address for him?
Yeah.
Judith, may I ask a question while we're waiting on that?
Yeah.
So is the order going to encompass the scope of the entirety of the rule so that we come up with a draft rule together, or just certain sections of the rule?
It seems like right now, unless somebody wants to correct me, and that's the whole point of the workshop, so it's open to discussion, but my thought would be 10 and 14, like Christopher Hall said. Unless somebody disagrees with me, they should speak now.
I guess the only thing is that if we are going to adopt some of the changes that were submitted in the comments in the draft rule, maybe we should do it now instead of after we open with the NOPR.
Oh, totally. This is all before the NOPR.
Right. So
yes, this would be.
So I guess what I'm saying is that maybe we could just adopt the changes on distribution cooperatives versus rural electric distribution cooperatives, that kind of thing. And get a clear draft to propose in what gets filed by the group.
Yes, so you're saying start from an updated version.
Correct, yeah. But maybe a cleaner updated version based on the comments that are already received.
Right. Well, then we could add in the order that staff will file an updated version 1 based upon the comments from the workshop, and 2, that all the participants will confer regarding 10 and 14 and try to come up with a consensus revision and file it in the docket. And it is 5 or 6 weeks the right amount of time?
I think it would be fine for us.
I think we can turn around that time.
Okay. Well, that all seems like we're moving the ball down the a few yards, right?
Judy, Mr. Garcia is now part of the meeting.
Okay. Hello, Chuck, is there anything you would like to say?
Hello, Judy, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
can-
thank you.
okay.
Took me a little bit of time to get unmuted. First of all, appreciate the link to be able to speak directly to this. The notion and the idea that those of us who commented sit down with staff and work through some language, I think is a good one. I do agree that it sounds like Section 10 is a primary focus of the comments. I would also add that one of the comments that Kit Carson submitted was with regard to one of the definitions in Section 7, the definition in R3. But certainly from the perspective of having the opportunity to sit down with folks, Kit Carson would be happy to do that.
Yeah, I was going to bring that point up now that you mentioned it. You were proposing to include green hydrogen.
Right. So the idea there was that one of the things that I think that Kit Carson has been focused on is looking at a wide variety of renewable energy options. And to the extent that there's this notion out there with regard to green hydrogen, so that there's no increase in, and we still maintain the zero emissions standard, that may be an additional element that co-ops ought to be able to consider, with the notion that we want the ability to look at as many options as there are that seem to make sense for that particular co-op.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting comment, and I would love to get feedback from staff and the Renewable, the Rural Electric Co-op Association on your proposed change to 7R3 Roman numeral 3.
From staff's perspective, we fully support the ability to have some diversity and as far as the renewables. And so we support this, or at least I do, in this initial phase.
Yeah.
This is Gloria. So the statute actually defines what is included in renewable energy, and that is in 62, let's see, 1537B, I believe. So that defines renewable energy. And then renewable energy resource is defined in the statute in subsection D. And so I think it would be an expansion of the change that Kit Carson is requesting would require a statutory change. We can't make the change by rule because the renewable energy is defined in the statute.
Sarah with staff, and I'm not an attorney, but I completely agree that, these terms are already defined in statute, and I don't, I'm reluctant to try to expand on that in the rule.
So the only response I would offer at this point is, while I certainly agree with staff that we don't want to put anything in the rule that contradicts what's in the statute, to the extent that the statute is silent or doesn't prohibit any additional renewable energy resources to be identified by the commission. I don't know that we're prohibited, but I agree that that's probably a discussion among lawyers and maybe not necessarily for the workshop this afternoon.
Well, my only comment is, I think the statute was deficient in not addressing hydrogen directly when it made the changes. Because I've been pondering that issue, and it's not clear. So, yes, I think this is a discussion for another day. Well, does anyone have anything else?
So, Judy, one quick question just from staff to staff. It's Dan. Is Gloria or Alicia or Milo, who's the point person for us to communicate with if we want to organize like a call or a meeting?
Good question.
I guess I would request that you communicate with all of us. Because if there's going to be a meeting date and time, we would all need to be there.
Okay, that's fine. And we'll copy everybody that's involved. That makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so then it looks like my task is to get an order out, and then you all will work on meeting on section 10 and section 14.
This is Kevin. That works for us.
Okay. Well, unless someone has something else they'd like to discuss, I think we can wrap this up.
Thank you very much, Judy.
No, thank you. I mean, at least we're getting started here, and that's the important thing.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Judy, and thanks for the opportunity to speak with the Zoom link.
Yes, and thank you for participating, everyone. Bye.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.